Warning, this video will contain intense gore and some flashing lights. View at your own discretion. Also, spoilers, you know? Hello my little potatoes, welcome to the newest episode of Let's Have a Chat. Growing up, my parents were strict followers of the ESRB, so I never got a lot of exposure to shooters or any kind of violent video game for that matter. Don't get me wrong, my parents did the right thing, but I always longed to play Call of Duty, Halo, Assassin's Creed, etc. as a kid. But the first shooter I ever played was at the age of 11, and it was Doom. Or, to be more accurate, I used my school laptop to go to an unblocked game site with a flash version of Doom. I wasn't a fan, even without having played a shooter in my life. Doom's controls felt off to me, so I put it down and never touched it again. Fast forward to 2016, and I, like most, picked up Overwatch. It was my first modern shooter experience, and I still have a lot of fun with it. As you all know, I picked up Battlefront 2 in early 2020, and now I feel comfortable playing shooters. Played through a bit of Halo, and in March of this year, I decided to buy Doom 2016. Despite my previous interactions with the series being less than stellar, I had heard good things, and it was $5, so what was the worst that could happen? Spend $5 on a game I didn't like? Oh well, not too much of a waste. And now, after 27 hours of playtime, I think I've ironed out my opinions about the game. So without further ado, let's have a chat about... Aesthetically, Doom is a heavy metal album cover. No matter where you look, your senses are overwhelmed, for better or for worse. Of course, graphically, the game is very pretty and all that, but it's the art direction itself that interests me. We have to start with the man himself. Doom Guy looks incredible. I always thought the classic Doom sprite looked kinda goofy, but here, Doom Guy looks like he will do all those things to my mother that the kids on Xbox Live said they'd do. Praetor's suit is to die for, and I'm glad they kept it in line with the design of the Night Sentinels, or vice versa, whichever way you want to put it. Obviously, because the majority of the game takes place on Mars, there's going to be a lot of red, but at times it felt kind of excessive. For example, when you return to the Argent facility in its destroyed state, the sheer amount of red on screen was overwhelming to the point where I had to pause and take a break for the sake of my eyes. Aside from that though, the game's art direction is superb, though the interior levels kind of suffer from the similarity syndrome. If you showed me different screen caps, I probably couldn't tell you which building they came from. Don't get it twisted, there are some really cool ideas at play here, but I feel like it was never truly capitalized on. The only room that sticks with me after 3 separate playthroughs is that huge tower on the inside of the Argent facility, where you ascend using drones and stuff. But all my complaints go out the window when you go to Hell. The architecture is unique, gothic, and awe-inspiring. The earth feels like blood and sand have fused as one, and the sheer cliff faces with their craggy rocks create this feeling that we really shouldn't be there. Doom Guy doesn't care. He struts around like he owns the place. No, he does. The monster designs are all superb as well, doing a hierarchy of scale. The bigger the demon, the bigger the threat. It's this really simple thing, but it works so goddamn well. But size aside, after all sizes and everything, the individual designs do a great job of being simple yet intimidating. Sure, the Baron of Hell is just an angrier, souped up imp, but with the addition of the horns and the sharper teeth and sort of more defined muscles, it easily makes it that much scarier. Each demon is unique and recognizable from a distance, which is where you want them anyway. As previously mentioned, there's this sort of heady metal vibe carried throughout the game's entire design, as part of that intense energy the game is trying to give off. This is very evident in the weapons of Doom, which I'll describe more when I get into the gameplay section, but design-wise, these weapons make such a good first impression. Even the basic pistol has a sleek design to it, and the shotgun too is varied from other games' depictions of the same weapon type, though later you do get a super shotgun, a callback to the more traditional design, but even this has a metal twist to it. The weapons that are done the absolute best in my opinion are the chain gun and the Gauss cannon. There is nothing more heart-pounding, adrenaline-pumping than just holding these big boys. You don't even need to fire them to feel like a badass. Gauss cannon has this futuristic design that makes me squeal and looks like a prototype BFG, which would make sense based on its destructive power. Also, not a gun, but special shout out to the chainsaw. Rip and tear, motherfucker. Not all the weapons design designs were winners though. There were some weapons that disappointed me, namely the rocket launcher and plasma rifle. I don't know, to me, the plasma rifle just isn't very exciting visually. I pretty much rarely used it unless I had to, and the rocket launcher though, it's so close to looking cool, but it ultimately feels like it was rushed or something. I love this thing as a weapon, but holding it just looks so boring. But the guns designs are second in priority to this game's level of gore. If you're gonna make a game where you feel like a monster ripping through lesser beings, you have to make the gore look good. Gore doesn't work, then the whole game falls apart, and it becomes unintentionally goofy. Luckily, the homies over at id Software figured that'd be the case and put a lot of work into the gore, but didn't go overboard. There's a nice balance between that goofy video game gore and a realistic, uncomfortable kind of gore. Leaning too hard into one or the other would have made the whole game fall apart. Surprisingly, a lot of what makes Doom work comes down to its visuals. Sure, you have all the great puzzle pieces provided by its gameplay, sounds, and story, but what holds them all together is the art direction. Moving around in environments has to look good too, as you want to create a sense of unease in the player at the start, but by the end have them feel fearless, ripping and tearing through demons, ignoring the hellish landscape. Doom does an excellent job making the player feel fearless by the end, and making them appear as this badass entity that can't be stopped. In a game like this, you need to be able to feel each impact, every hit, every blast. The sound of gunpowder exploding in harmonious, synchronized symphony with demon skulls. And in a game played on mouse and keyboard, it's hard to display great impact without the use of rumble that controllers have, so the sound design really has to carry it. Doom takes the best possible approach to sound design, though it does make a few sacrifices along the way. The emphasis is on the destruction you cause, so there aren't a lot of clear indications of when you get hit, with the only good sign that you need to start worrying being when you hear the dreaded beep beep of your Praetor suit. God, the only thing they fear is me? Well, the only thing I fear is my microwave after this game. I feel like I have PTSD. But that aside, the sound design is immaculate. Guns sound like the true source of death and destruction that they are. Big guns go krish boom, and the smaller guns go blam bap bap bap. As said, the focus is on your onslaught. Rip and tear isn't just a phrase, it's a sound firmly tattooed into my skull. Every time I'd close my eyes after a session of Doom, I could see the faces of the imps and hear the sounds of bones cracking and flesh ripping. Wow, I sound psychotic. Yikes. But that's what Doom does to me, man, and it isn't just the sound of dying demons and gunshots that turn me into a blood-starved, carnage-wrecking beast. Oh no, that honor is upheld by the one and only Mick Gordon's soundtrack. Most have likely heard this immaculate album of heavy metal angst and death. The music itself is very fascinating as it's all dynamic, playing different parts of the song depending on what you're doing, and transitioning seamlessly into those parts too, in a matter of seconds. There's a great video by Raycivic, which I'll link below, about this music system. Mick Gordon has created one of the most blood-pumping soundtracks to ever exist, and it's no more clear in this album's magnum opus, BFG Division. I am no music nerd, I'll never claim to be. There's something special about this track. I can't quite put my finger on it, but the level of destruction causes me to freeze up every time I hear it and have flashbacks. Except I'm not the one being ambushed. I'm the one in the trees. The music accompanying the slaughter is so very important, and it all helps that it's designed so well to be integrated into the gameplay, reacting to the chaos caused by the player. Alright, listen, I'm not going to tell you that Doom has this absolute masterpiece, genre-defining story. It's ultimately a MacGuffin story. Doom guy, go get this. Now Doom guy, go get that. Doom guy, go here and kill guys. Doom guy, go here and kill these guys. That's perfectly okay. Doom never set out to have a groundbreaking narrative. The story is just a catalyst for you to go kill shit. However, I do appreciate the amount of effort that was put into the story. It's not some jumbled mess, it's a coherent story with some really good lore backing it. And to be honest, it does a really good job humanizing Doom guy. Our key characters have some pretty solid motivation, and the voice acting was really well done. Samuel Hayden ended up becoming a character I was super invested in. I wanted to know more about him. I just loved that aura he had when he entered a room. And at the end, when he says, "Lol, sorry bro, gotta do what you gotta do," all I felt was rage. I wanna hunt that bastard down. The only real downside to the story is that initially the story is optional. The cutscenes are all told through holograms you can skip, save a few key things you need to watch, but as you progress further and further, the story stops being optional. Now you have to pay attention to the weird gremlin lady. The Doom series is best known for two key things, moving fast and shooting shit, and Doom 2016 has taken that to the extreme. In Doom, you constantly have to be on the move to survive. You can't pull the typical shooter tactic of hiding behind cover. Demons will run up to you and tear you a new one. You move fast and frequently. Besides, most of your guns are at their best when you're moving around, switching between them depending on the distance. Call me Fox News, because let's ignore the crippling issue of gun control and talk about how cool guns are. This game gives you so many options to shoot and kill shit. Each weapon serves a purpose, and victory comes through by you switching between them to cause some serious damage. Some guns simply outclass each other, however. Like after you get the super shotgun, there's no real reason to go back to the standard shotgun. And considering you can get the super shotgun super early, it makes the shotgun feel invalidated. But this disparity is most shown in the plasma rifle and Gauss cannon. Sure, the plasma rifle might have a better rate of fire, but the sheer damage output from the Gauss cannon outclasses it. I generally didn't even use the plasma rifle because it didn't feel good. Almost every gun has a certain bit of feedback to it, but the plasma rifle felt like a kid's toy. Personal biases aside, every gun serves a purpose. Sure, you could stick to one gun if you'd like, but that doesn't nearly feel as fun or satisfying. Each gun feels unique to me, and only gets more fun as time goes on. There's one gun that never changes, but it never really needs to. That's the BFG 9000. It instantly clears a room in this gory, beautiful light show that can be used to cheese boss fights. You see, it has this constant hitbox, so when you open your weapon wheel, which slows down time, it deals constant damage to the boss until it's out of range. If timed correctly, you can take out a boss in seconds. So, the way upgrading works is you get these nifty little points called combat points by completing challenges, finding secrets, and being real good at killing things. You exchange these points in your menu to upgrade your weapons after you unlock weapon mods, which you can only find by exploring. By upgrading your weapon mods, you can increase the feeling of carnage and the variety in the game. You can also make some of the downsides of guns disappear. Super shotgun uses 2 bullets per shot, not after you master it. Gauss cannon's big boy blast park you in a place. Just master it, baby. And that's the cycle of Doom. You could completely ignore it and just run through and kill stuff, or take the time to commit methodical slaughter and explore every nook and cranny. The more time you put into a run, the more you'll get out of it. And explore you will in this game, as there's no end to the collectibles. And explore you will, as there's no end to the collectibles. You've got fun stuff like Doom Guy figurines and classic levers, which unlock models to view and levels from classic Doom games respectively. I never really messed around with either of them, but they're fun to collect, and when Doom Guy picks up this figure, he gives it a little fist bump, and that just makes my heart happy. But then you've got your practical collectibles, Praetor tokens, runes, Argent cells, and spare armor / early access to some guns. You can unlock the super shotgun as early as level 5 and the plasma rifle in level 3, so not only can you get access to very good guns early on, but Praetor tokens are incredibly useful, and they can be exchanged for suit upgrades that can drastically change how you play. Now sure, you could go for the dexterity tree and get a faster mod / gun switching, or you could get the exploration tree and invalidate the hunt for secrets. I'd also like to take this time to discuss one of the few glitches I found during my recording session. I found a Praetor token and put it into one tree because I didn't have enough to unlock the last part of the exploration tree. But after dying and reloading my save, all of a sudden the exploration tree had been maxed out and the other tree hadn't been touched. Don't get me wrong, it's a great thing for me, but it just felt a little cheap is all. Rune challenges, on the other hand, are optional challenges you can undertake to unlock runes, which are fun little upgrades for your suit, stuff like larger item grab radius or making enemies drop armor when glory killed. More on that in a second. Argent cells allow you to increase your ammo capacity, your health, or your armor maximums, meaning they're an essential pickup in my book. They can dramatically increase your level of aggressive play by making you tankier or just giving you more ammo to work with. Now when it comes to the actual firefights, the guns and mods aren't the only thing providing variety to the gameplay. No, you've also got 4 main incentives to keep you moving around the battlefield. Scattered around are ammo, health, and armor pickups, so you'll need to be getting after them when the fight gets tough, and you gotta keep moving to go get them, and you gotta pick them up when you need them, but you also need to think about when you have to pick them up. But let's say you've been using your super shotgun an awful lot. You've gathered all the ammo pickups. What do? Allow me to introduce you to a good friend of mine. The chainsaw. This short-range weapon with limited uses, which Argent cell ammo upgrades can increase, is an insta-kill as long as you have the proper amount of fuel, but that's not all. You rip through a demon and from their gushing wounds fly an obscene amount of ammo. Boom. Never run out of ammo. But what about running out of health pickups, or there's too many enemies in the way, you won't make it to the nearest health pack? What do? That's where this Doom reboot's newest, goriest feature comes in handy. The glory kill. Not only is it one of the most satisfying things in a video game, but it's so visually entertaining that you want to do it regardless of whether you need it or not. When a demon gets staggered, it flashes blue, and when in range for a glory kill, they flash orange. By glory killing, enemies drop health so you can keep fighting, further encouraging aggressive gameplay. But now your back is against the corner, you've got limited options, and charging in seems like suicide. That's where power-ups come in handy. Scattered throughout some of the battlefields on certain levels are power-ups like Berserk, Haste, Quad Damage, etc. They give you a huge advantage in combat and can be used to change the tides. Now get back in there, rip and tear! The 4 gameplay elements are what give Doom its famous intensity, and all come together to encourage the player to be more aggressive, similar to the Soul system in Hollow Knight. And if it seems overwhelming, that's okay, because the game introduces them in increments. By the end of the game, the slaughter has become so intense, but you hardly notice it, because it's been gradually growing more and more intense as the game goes on. The game does a great job of introducing its mechanics and enemies gradually, allowing the player to adapt to that so that by the end, the player becomes the Doom Slayer. My only complaint about the gameplay is when the game oddly starts relying on platforming. It really messes up the pacing when I spend 10 minutes jumping around a tower trying to find where I'm supposed to go to kill things, and I don't mean that I get lost. The devs prevent that by using the color green to indicate where to go, but rather that it just takes so long to get from fight A to fight B because I gotta jump around, which feels a little finicky. There are plenty of situations where I should have grabbed the ledge, but the game says no, and I fall to my death and now I have to redo all that platforming. And that platforming, it only becomes more and more frequent after you gain access to the double jump. Now, I'm okay with secrets being hidden behind some kind of platforming. There has to be some challenge to finding them, but I don't feel like it's necessarily key to the gameplay, at least not in its main utilization. There are plenty of arenas that rely on platforming, and those are really fun, and I wish that had been the focus for the platforming in this game. I've heard that Doom Eternal has fixed this issue kind of, but I have yet to play it. Each level does a good job introducing a new gun, enemy type, giving players time to adapt and ultimately get comfortable before putting them to the test later on. There is a great video by Game Maker's Toolkit that focuses solely on one fight from Doom Eternal that sheds a light on this system, which will be linked below. By the end of the game, you're ripping and tearing through hordes of demons, showing them that you're not stuck in hell with them, they're stuck in hell with you. The fights are still intense and challenging, but never unfair considering all the tools at your disposal. And if we're talking replay value, Doom has plenty of it. There's a pretty good chance that you didn't find every collectible on your first time through, so the game encourages repeat playthroughs. Not to mention there are multiple difficult levels to entice you, so just in case you want to be miserable today. Doom's multiplayer is somewhat shallow compared to the main campaign, but it's still fun and does have some interesting ideas, like allowing the player to transform into a demon until they're killed. It feels like a weird mix of Halo and The Last of Us multiplayer modes. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're not here for that kind of multiplayer. No, the real multiplayer mode we care about is Snap Map, which is a system the developers put in that allows players to design their own levels. Much like Mario Maker, there are some clear stinkers, but a lot of brilliant levels that have been painstakingly designed. If you're looking for more Doom, here's an endless supply. Doom is easily one of the most influential games to ever come out, and this 2016 reboot carries that legacy. It single-handedly revitalized the first-person shooter genre, and showed that there was still a great amount of creativity in the games industry. I'm very excited to pick up Doom Eternal when I have the funds to do so. I highly recommend picking up this game. This video has made you interested in it, and if you're an FPS fan, I don't need to tell you to get the game because odds are you already have. I hope you all enjoyed this video. It's one of my personal favorites that I've done so far. If you liked it, please consider hitting like. If you didn't, hit the dislike, tell me what I can do to improve. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to drown your goldfish. Don't forget to drink your water and have yourselves a damn good one.